ABC News.
And good morning. Welcome into Feedback on a Tuesday morning. On the line, Attorney Corey Morgan. Good morning, Corey. How are you?
Good morning. Doing great.
I understand that you have a case there in Franklin. Is that right?
And I do at 9:45, and I've actually talked to the judge and said, hey, I'm going to do this radio show, and then I'll be over there. But I normally like to come in there, and I know we're on video now, and I know I've got different people everywhere. They can't see me on video, and I'm sorry about that.
They can just watch me talking to you on the phone here. Now, are you do you have to break away at 9:45, or will the judge let you finish your radio show? That's pretty considerate, the judge letting you finish the radio show before you have to show up, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I didn't know. You know, it's one of those things, well, should I move that to another day, or should I just talk to the judge? Well, the judge, judges typically are usually, pretty fair about things. So, you got going on.
Oh, by the way, the question being asked, is it Judge Wakefield? Is that who it is?
No, it's Judge Harrison.
Okay, all right.
Judge Wakefield and Judge Harrison had a race a while back, and Judge Harrison... she's in the district judge here.
Okay, all right, very good. So, all right. The question was that he worked. Wakefield worked years ago here. Worked for the Beaver years ago, and wondered if that might be who it is. Okay, all right. Well, let me tell you, friends. Corey Morgan, Attorney Morgan, is on the line. The judge gave him granted him special permission to stay on the radio with us till 10 o'clock.
Right.
You have a question for him. He's happy to answer your legal questions free. Now, the number to call locally, 270-726-6100. Our long-distance toll-free, 1-888-610-WRUS. That's 9787. Get your question in. You'll be up first. We'll take a break and be right back with Attorney Corey Morgan.
This is Jerry White of Riley White in Russellville. And with me is Donnie Riley, another Riley White pharmacist. Donnie, I appreciate modern technology as much as anybody, but what have they been doing to the telephones? I mean, it's harder to hear what anybody's saying on the phone than it's ever been.
Jerry, let me ask you this. Is it just a telephone, or have they messed with the television and radio, so it's harder to hear what's being said on them?
Now that you mentioned, Donnie, it is harder.
Jerry, after examining the evidence, I don't believe the problem involves modern technology. It might involve the number of candles on your birthday cake. But at Riley White, we've always tried to do the best job of serving our customers, whether it's explaining the prescriptions to make sure there's no adverse reaction with other drugs, providing free delivery service in our delivery area, always having a pharmacist on call on Sundays and holidays. In every way, we try to provide the gold standard in service to Riley White customers, and we use modern technology to make our service even better.
And if you hadn't mumbled, I would have understood everything you said.
We're Riley White on the square, downtown Russellville.
When you lose a loved one, a number of details must be worked out in a relatively short amount of time. The pressure of these decisions is only made worse by the grief the families feel. This is Wayne Reeves. Since 1959, our community has trusted Young Funeral Home to help them through this difficult time. As a family-owned funeral home, we understand the value of family and know that's how our friends and neighbors deserve to be treated. Young Funeral Home with chapels in Russellville and Auburn.
And good morning. This is Feedback. You're on the air with Attorney Corey Morgan.
Sir, I'd like to ask a question about liability.
Sure.
Say for instance, if you had an automobile accident, you had $300,000 worth of liability insurance, and maybe it was your fault or whatever, but they, the people that was involved in a wreck with you sued you for, say, $1 million or whatever. You had property. Could they go back and get this property if they got judgment against you? And if you had this in a trust fund, would that prevent this from happening?
Number one, the answer to that is yes, they can go against property that is, generally speaking, these are kind of general rules here. They can go above that. For instance, if they've got $300,000 of liability there and it's $1 million judgment, they can go against you for the amount that's not paid. Now, if it's something dealing with a vehicle that maybe is an employee of a company, and maybe it's a corporation or LLC, at that point they're limited to the assets of the company typically. But if it's something that you did, you had an accident, then they can go back against that person for that. And that's why
this would be an individual.
Right. If it's an individual, they can go back. That's why it's important a lot of times to have, maybe umbrella coverage where it covers, things if some of the individual policies don't meet what you need to meet, then you might have some additional coverage on that as well. But
what about if you had this property in a trust, say land, for instance, if you had this in a trust, would that prevent this from happening?
Sometimes it can. It depends on when the trust was set up and the purposes for which the trust was set up, and whether it's a revocable or an irrevocable trust. If it's an irrevocable trust, they are more immune from liability than something that you can revoke at any time. A lot of times, something that you can when you put something in a trust that you can revoke at any time, the law pretty much treats it as if it belongs to you, even though it's in a trust. But if it's an irrevocable trust, say you put your assets in an irrevocable trust for the benefit of kids or family members. In that case, it's probably unlikely that they would be able to get to that property, unless they would have to show that it was done for a fraudulent purpose.
All right, so that'll probably do it then. I was interested in maybe obtaining one to protect some family heirs and this whole thing. So that will help me make up my mind. I thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you for calling. The lines are open now. You can talk with Attorney Corey Morgan. 270-726-6100 or long distance, toll free 1-888-610-WRUS. What's on your mind this morning, Corey? Normally you have some things you've been thinking about when you come on the air with me.
One of the biggest things, and I know everybody's heard this by now, but one of the biggest things I have seen since I was in Lastmont is this gay marriage ruling. It's the United States Supreme Court in U.S. versus Windsor held that throughout the United States that people have the right, gays and lesbians have the right to get married, just like a man and a woman. And which it makes you think, well, how does our statute read in Kentucky? And I was looking that up. Our definition of marriage, which is KRS 402.005. Anybody out there can just put that in a Google search and it'll pull it up. KRS 402.005. It says definition of marriage. It says, as used and recognized in the law of the Commonwealth, marriage refers only to the civil status, condition, or relation of one man and one woman united in law for life for the discharge to each other and the community of the duties legally incumbent upon those whose association is founded on the distinction of sex. Then next there's a KRS 402.045. It says same-sex marriage in another jurisdiction void and unenforceable. It says 1, a marriage between members of the same sex which occurs in another jurisdiction shall be void in Kentucky. Number 2, any rights granted by virtue of the marriage, or its termination, shall be unenforceable in Kentucky courts. Those are two statutes, in the marriage act we have that by virtue of that Supreme Court case, those statutes are now unconstitutional and unenforceable because of that. Now, the part about one man and one woman, there's still, the statute would still stand. There's an old adage in the law that, you only, that part of the statute is unconstitutional is what's taken out. Everything else would remain. And I'm sorry, there's a big truck outside the window. Everything else would remain in there. So the part of one man and one woman would now be, two people of any sex would be able to get married. And really, what that case did, and once again, don't stop me if there's a call or anything. I'm just going to talk till we got one. What that case essentially did was expand fundamental rights. Now, the U.S. Supreme Court has said some rights are considered so fundamental that they cannot be taken away from American citizens. And let me give you examples of those. I always remember that there's the acronym or mnemonic, however you want to call it, CAMPER. I remember that from law school, CANTER. Those are the main fundamental rights we have as U.S. citizens. For instance, C is contraception. You have the right to contraception. There's been some cases on that, whether or not they can make that illegal. A is for abortion. You have the right to abortion, Roe versus Wade, which I think most everybody's familiar with. Marriage, you have the right to marry. There's been several cases in the U.S. Supreme Court, mainly dealing with interracial type marriages and things like that. And you have the absolute right for one man and one woman to get married. That's part of this law. P would be procreation. Procreation means that the state can't keep you from being able to procreate in most instances. E would be for education. You have the right to a minimum education. Generally speaking, that's 8th grade. Is what the U.S. Supreme Court has said. Hey, everybody's got that right. And those mainly come up in cases like Amish cases and things like that, where do they have to give them an education? And the answer is yes to that. And R would be for relationships. You have the right to certain relationships with children, with other family members, and such that can't be taken away. But that's the main fundamental right that people have. There's also a right to travel. You have there's that right. There's First Amendment rights and other things as well. But what they really went into in this United States versus Windsor case is the right to marriage, and they expanded the right to marriage. That's generally speaking what they did on that. And in doing so, they found the federal law that deals with defense of, I don't remember exactly how it's written, but it's Defense of Marriage Act. They found that to be unconstitutional, with respect to being one man and one woman.
Now, somebody recently has filed a suit in some states saying that under the new ruling, he can have more than one wife, but that was not something that was not approved by this new ruling, was it?
No, it was not. And I think it's clear. Now, I've only read excerpts from the case. I haven't read the case in its entirety. I'll say that up front. Read kind of the Cliff Notes versions and things like that. But from what I have read, it's pretty clear that they're saying, it's one person and one person. And you have equal protection arguments as well. If you have if a man and a woman can get married, why can't two men or two women, get married? I think it's pretty clear from reading that, though, that it doesn't open the door to, 3-person marriages or anything like that. It's just dealing with two persons. And keep in mind, too, one of the things that is important, I think, when the court heard this case, by the time the court heard it and made a ruling, there were a lot of states were allowing, same-sex marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not aware of.
Yeah, let's take a call. Good morning. You're on the air with Attorney Morgan.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, Judge Neagle was on here on the radio, and I asked him this question this morning. I want to ask you the question, and I want to hang up and listen to your answer.
Sure.
At the Constitution, he said that the Supreme Court was there to enforce the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
When California voted to not approve same-sex marriages, then the Constitution starts out with "we the people." Well, the people of California voted against it. Now, how can 9 people in Washington, D.C. overrule the whole people when they're appointed for the people to interpret the law?
All right. Do you want to stay on the line, or are you going to say you're going to hang up and listen? I believe you already hung up. All right. Address the role of the Supreme Court in that regard, Corey.
I'd be happy to. Now, he said, how could 9 people, and I'll even narrow it even more, it's 5 people.
5 people.
5, right. 5 out of, it's 9 people on the Supreme Court, but only 5 of them actually make that decision. And those 5 people have made a determination that affects the entire United States, regardless of what the states say. For instance, Kentucky clearly has elected its representatives, to go to Frankfurt and make laws. And they've made the laws, as I just read a few minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
They've made those laws. And by the stroke of a pen, the United States Supreme Court has voided every law in the United States that's inconsistent with same-sex marriage. And the gentleman, I see exactly where he's going with that, and I agree with that. I try not to get my personal opinions and things like that. Anybody who's listening to the show, though, they can see I'm a very big states' rights person and believe in federalism, and the federal government has its place. The federal government, if you read the Constitution, is a government of limited powers. The only powers the government has are those that are set out in Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution. And you can go in there and read, and you will find that it does not deal with marriage at all. Marriage historically has always been a state issue. The federal government was never got involved. In fact, you get married in a state. You don't get married by the federal government. You get married in the state. That's the way it's always been historically since the founding of this country. And then all of a sudden you have, not just with this case, but, back starting, I think, in the 50s or so, maybe even a little bit earlier than that, the federal government started to get involved in marriage. And, they don't get involved directly. They get involved indirectly, saying what you can and cannot do to the states. And that was, at the time of the Constitution was I should say the nation was formed, and the Constitution was adopted, and that was not something that the founding fathers contemplated at all. In fact, when the 14th Amendment, which is deals with equal protection, due process and equal protection, the equal protection was for giving minorities rights after the Civil War, because there was laws taken away, rights of minorities that had nothing whatsoever to do with marriage. And whenever you look examining the law, like Constitution or any statute, one of the things they look to, there's people who look to the text, and one of the things you also look to is the intention. What is the intent of the legislator or the founders when they enacted a particular provision? So I understand completely what the gentleman has said. And it is very undemocratic to do that, because it takes away the rights of the people. And I'm not talking about strictly gay marriage. I'm not, it just so happens we're talking about gay marriage right now.
One of the rulings on marriage a number of decades ago was courts threw out bars against interracial marriage, and it was
Correct.
felt that there was no reason for those laws to exist, and they were unconstitutional. So that's the point when the courts, one of the main things ways in which they got involved in marriage years ago, and today I think very few people would be critical of those court decisions today.
Sure, it is. It's I guess it depends on your, a lot of this. Same-sex marriage deals with how people feel about, religiously and about same-sex marriage. Some people it doesn't bother at all. Some people it really bothers.
Now, if the county clerks, some county clerks in the state said they're not going to do it, or they're not going to issue any marriage licenses, but that under this ruling, there's no way that can hold up. There's not going to be any religious privilege given to them to refuse issuing marriage licenses. Isn't that?
If that were the case, then I think government would pretty much shut down, because you would, if the unfortunate thing is, if you're in a government job and you're receiving a government paycheck, and you have to abide by the law or you get out of that job. I mean, I think that's pretty fundamental thing. If it bothers you religiously, fine. I understand that completely. I'm very big on religious freedom, but at the same time, if you have to represent all the people and follow all of the laws, you need to, at that point, not not be in a position to where you have to let your personal biases or prejudices get in the way. So, I mean, I think that is, they just need to find another job if they can't do their current
Now, the
job.
county clerk in Casey County is asking the governor to call a special legislative session to provide that marriage licenses could be obtained online, just like hunting and fishing licenses can be, relieving county clerks who have a religious objection to this from having to do this. Now, the governor was out of town. He was in Louisville meeting with Humana officials, but said that his representative said that he'd be happy to meet with the county clerk, but any possibility something like that may eventually come along, or would that not something that would be supported?
That's a good. But one of the things I really like coming on this show, Forrest Don, is you teach me things all the time. I come on here and you'll tell me, I'll be like, I didn't know that, and this is one of those things, I did not know that, but that makes good sense, if you have it online, to where you can get a marriage license. Now, I don't know, it's been of course, I'm divorced now, it's been many years since I've been married, or got married, so I don't remember what you have to do, if you have to show a license or some sort of proof or something. I don't know when you I don't know if that would be a problem with doing it online. But yeah, I mean, that makes good sense. You don't have the clerks have to get involved in that. And also, what about like the judges, like county judges or county judge executive or the district or circuit judges? I mean, are they? What if you don't believe that two people of the same sex should be married? I mean, can they just do heterosexual marriages and not do
be pretty difficult. We got a couple of calls. Good morning. You're on the air with Attorney Morgan.
Well, first of all, God loves everybody, regardless if you gay, straight, or whatever. And then it's like the whole, because I'm gay, and it's like seeing straight people that say that they don't like gay people, that sneak into gay bars and gay bash and beat up gay people and kill gay people and all that other stuff. If you don't like it, then don't go around it.
Is this Henry?
Yes, sir.
I thought it was Henry. Are you in town, Henry?
Yeah, and it's like most of the popular people that you see on TV, that's your athletes that you see, that are, most of us are gay. And it's like a lot of us can't get jobs and stuff like that to educate the kids just because you guys think we're going to touch a child. Some people do that and some people don't.
Yeah.
And it's like all the people here in Logan County could have been to college. 25 or 40 people could be off into the NBA, but they can't, all because I'm gay.
Well, all right. Henry, appreciate your perspective here. Glad you're tuned in. Glad you called in. Get your point of view.
Thank you. And that's a good point. The society has actually changed a lot. I remember when I was a kid, going to Russellville school system and all that, it was a lot different. Society was a lot different than it is now. I think there's a lot more people who accept, gays and gay rights and things of that nature. So it's changed over the years.
Someone else was trying to call a moment ago. We're going to a commercial break. Call right back, if you will, while we had the commercial break. You'll be up next. 270-726-6100 or long distance, toll free, 1-888-610-WRUS. That's 9787. You call up now, you'll be up next, right after these messages. I've often said air conditioning is my favorite modern invention, and to be perfectly honest, central heat doesn't fall far behind. It's amazing how much trouble it causes when a unit fails. But don't dare fret. Make one call to Knight Electric Heating and Cooling, and they can do it all. When the time comes to replace your unit, they'll provide you a free quote, offering options that will conserve energy and, more importantly, save you money on your energy bill. Plus, they'll throw in 3 free checkups. Buy before November 20th, and you'll also be registered to win a $500 Visa gift card. Knight Electric Heating and Cooling is a TVA-approved HVAC contractor serving the entire WRUS listening area. And once your new unit is installed, you can rest easily knowing they provide 24/7 service when necessary. Don't take chances with your comfort. Call Knight Electric Heating and Cooling at 270-726-3818. That's 270-726-3818. One call and they do it all. License number MO4318.
Hey folks, Nick Rice with Freeland Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. If you hate to save money, tune me out now. But if you want to know how you can save thousands of dollars, listen up. Right now at Freeland, we've marked every single new car on the lot at or below factory invoice, and you get to keep all the rebates. This is your chance to drive a brand new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram for less than ever before. These are some of the coolest and most awarded vehicles on the road today, and many models are available with 0% interest. Think about that for a second. Brand new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs at or below invoice. You keep the rebates, and qualified buyers don't pay a penny in interest. Come see us today at Freeland Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1451 Bowling Green Road in Russellville. Weekdays 8:30 till 6:30 and 9 to 5 on Saturdays. Call us at 270-725-4100. Like us on Facebook or shop online anytime at FreelandCDJR.com.
Come enjoy it while it lasts. Fun in the sun savings at your Russellville Piggly Wiggly. Grab cooked smoked shank portion hams for $1.19 a pound and whole boneless pork loin slice free, just $1.79 a pound. Sweet Southern peaches are 89 cents a pound. Red ripe strawberries in the 1-pound package and Always Save ice cream squares are $1.99 each. Sunny D Citrus Punch of the 64-ounce bottle, 99 cents. Kellogg's cereal varieties are $1.99 a box. Best Choice vegetable varieties are 2 cans for $1. Extra detergent 39 to 50 use varieties are 2 for $4. 24 packs of Niagara 16.9-ounce purified bottled water is 2 for $5. Stock up on Yoplait yogurt and get 10 for $5. And 32-ounce bottles of Gatorade Thirst Quenchers, now 88 cents. Enjoy fun in the sun savings galore all over the store at your friendly and convenient Piggly Wiggly in the Bethel Shopping Center, Russellville.
And good morning. This is Feedback. You're on the air with attorney Corey Morgan. Go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Corey.
Good morning.
Good to talk to you. This is Laura Murphy. My mom's maiden name was Morgan. I have lots of Morgans in my family down in Wayne County, Tennessee, where they are doing what you were talking about. The counties are not going to do it. They're just not going to do what the government's ruling is on this. And the ruling that they've got going on, stuff like this has been happening since the Cold War that I can remember in the 50s. I remember it. And in the 60s. And the government, let me see, right and wrong, shut down on this. And man's law, this is a man-made law, correct? Men are making these laws, and women. Okay? This country, in my opinion, what they meant by God, in God we trust, men, we don't worship many gods like some countries do. You know that. Some countries do.
Right.
In God we trust. One God. This country was founded on that law. And God's law, He is abomination. And we're supposed to believe in the Ten Commandments. This country does. And that's when it all started, I think. We're supposed to keep the statutes of God and the commandments of God. And they are definitely wrong. Men are going against this God's law. Who do they think they are? Do you think God's lying? You know, you understand that? What I'm talking about? There is the devil's law. Who would ask you to kill? And who would ask you to break the commandments? The spirit of the devil, right? God says He can do no wrong. That's what it says biblically. The Word says that biblically. Thou shalt not do this. Listen to God. Yeah. And we'll be a lot better off. We'll have friends instead of enemies, I believe. And when is it ever going to... Have you read Revelation? I think it's 20 or 22. When is the devil going to get locked up, this devil spirit? I'm not the devil spirit, but I know who is. Anybody asking you to break the laws of God, the Ten Commandments, and the statutes of God, when is that going to happen? It's going to happen, and I hope it's soon, because it talks about heads getting cut off, and isn't that what's going on right now? Christians are getting their heads cut off to this day in foreign countries that believe in many gods. They worship themselves and have more than one wife and all this kind of crap. It's wrong. If you believe in God, one God, God Oh, anyway, here's
okay, Laura.
Here, another thing. Don't we have the right to believe? Does this government, the state, can't they check the government? If states could check their own government, would things be wrong, and wouldn't we be represented more equally? I mean, you say, yeah, these people have a right, and I believe they need to go to church. They can come to church freely. We believe in freedom of religion, but that doesn't mean we have to do what they want to do. I mean, that's death.
All right, Laura.
It is a death way.
Good to hear from you, Laura.
Good to hear from you all.
And
another thing, I was in Amish country yesterday, and I think those people need, like up there on McReynolds Road, need speed limits of at least 25 miles an hour on that narrow road. Up behind them, they go 10 miles an hour, and it looks like the horses are racing fast. And I don't think they ought to have to pick up their poop. I'm not going to do it. I think it's good fertilizer. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, dear. Good morning. This feedback. You're on the air with attorney Corey Morgan.
Yeah, I just have a comment to say. I've been listening a little bit on and off here, but, you know, all the clerks who are refusing to give out, you know, marriage license to all these gay people, and they're quitting or whatever, were they doing that when people were filing for divorce papers?
I don't think so. Somebody made the remark that there are other moral issues involved when people get seek marriage licenses too. So
yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things out there that are being looked over. So, you know, as a Christian, I agree that it's wrong, but so is divorce, and nobody was retiring over that. So.
You know, the thing about it is that if somebody digs in his toes and he won't do it, there'll be a suit filed. The clerk could go to prison. The county could face a huge liability suit. And eventually, and the clerk could lose his job. Eventually, somebody else will come in, and somebody else will be the clerk, and they'll eventually have to do it. So it doesn't seem that it doesn't seem like something wise to me. I don't.
Yes, and I think the online thing would be the best.
It would.
That way, there's nobody face to face. You just fill it out online and go from there. So that's
all right.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks for calling us.
Thank you.
Good morning. This feedback. You're on the air with attorney Corey Morgan.
That woman 2 calls ago was right on line. I'm telling you, everybody would speak up like she did. We'd have a changed country. And also, I'd like to ask why our dictator in Washington can go against the Constitution and still sit in office. I can't figure that one out.
Corey, you want to respond?
We're supposed
My response is we've had many presidents, over the years that have just completely ignored the Constitution. Actually, it goes back to, I think, to the early 1900s.
Well, I don't think in my lifetime, I'm in my 90s.
Right. The Constitution, where they had the New Deal. You remember the New Deal?
Yeah, I remember that.
Started to where the Constitution started to just.
Well, I never thought a man like him that breaks it so many times. He bypasses the Constitution and bypasses Congress. And, well, he's a dictator. That's all I can say. I don't know how he can get away with it. I just can't see it.
Right. There's a lot of corruption in our government, both at state and federal levels.
It's on his own.
That's one of the problems.
Good morning. You're on the air with Corey Morgan.
Well, the way that lady said right then, I agree, but I'm going to add a little bit to it. If every Christian in the United States of America would stand up, stomp their feet real hard and say, no, we're not putting up with it, and believe it, we'd be a big change in this government. But we seem like we don't really want to do that. We want to sit back and wait. But we've got a choice of tolerating them, which according to the Bible you're not supposed to, because we're supposed to spread the gospel, and the gospel says it is absolutely a sin. In fact, it goes further enough to say that you'll burn in hell, I believe the words are used, if you do this, and if you tolerate it, even tolerate it. So we better get together and do something as a group and start start saying something and going places, and I'm going to add a little bit to it, and I'm going to open up the can of worms. The flag has been here a lot longer than most of us on Earth right now. If you go back to when the flag was, I don't think we've got any living people that on the Earth right now that had anything to do with the flag back when it was first started. It is a sign of Southern pride, and that's all I've ever looked at it as. And I have one, and I'm not taking it down or away. It will stay with me as long as I've got a grip in my hands to hang on to it. It has got a thing to do with wait a minute, it hasn't got a thing to do with what happened in that church down there. It's because that boy had one in his hand. This is all got started. That's the only reason it's got started. Go ahead.
Right, you're talking about the Confederate battle flag, just for people who out there who may not know which flag this going to. There's been a lot of companies and governments that have been concerned about that over the past month as well. A lot has happened since I was here last month.
Sure, a lot of things going on.
Right, but it's just like there's talk of maybe taking the statue down in the city park up here. That hasn't got anything to do with what's going on now. It's put there as a tribute to the ones that failed during the war. And I wonder, and I'm asking these people that want to take this rebel flag down, would you be as quick to take it down if it had been a Union flag in that boy's hand? I just wonder about that. All right, thank you.
Thanks for calling.
The big scary thing to me about...
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to address that. The thing that concerns me more about the Confederate flag than anything is that it has been a historical symbol for a period of 150 years, and then all of a sudden, poof, it's gone. It's so quick. People move so quick. That tells me that it was an emotional response. Nothing should ever be done as an emotional response. If we want to take the Confederate flag and say we do not need this, and we want to take it away from state buildings and take things, out of courthouses and such, that is perfectly fine. I'm all for it. If the people want it, majority rules in this country. At least it should. That's fine. But to do it as an emotional response is very concerning to me. When you have to sit, whenever something horrible like that happens in South Carolina, you have to sit back and say, okay, this has happened. What's going on? What do we need to do? If anything, sometimes you don't need to do anything. Sometimes, there are evil people out there, and evil people will be evil people, and they'll do evil things, and there's nothing you can do about it. Or is there something that needs to be done to take care of that? But the fact is that things have moved so quick. That's what I was talking about since last month. Things have moved so quickly that we need to get away from emotional knee-jerk responses on things. And that's really the concern. No matter how horrible the particular act is, we've got to put a lot of thought into things to see
And we've got a couple of calls. Good morning. You're on the air with Attorney Morgan.
Well, if it's voted for by the people, and if I'm supposed to be the next president after Obama, the first gay president, and everybody in the whole country and the whole world knows besides y'all, then what's supposed to happen?
Well,
I don't know if I'm following the question.
We'll meditate on that one, Henry.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks for calling. Good morning. This feedback. You're on the air with Attorney Corey. Well, that one bailed out. Call us right back. We'll have a commercial break. By the way, something that is mentioned, Corey, is that to what extent will people who devoutly, religiously believe that gay marriage and the like is wrong, to what extent will they be allowed to say this openly? Now, the majority on the Supreme Court indicated that there'd be no problem with religious people espousing their views in church or wherever. But Justice Alito said the time may come when you can only whisper these things in the quietness of your own home, and he's skeptical that there won't be attempts made to curtail speech. Do you see any possibility of that?
Absolutely. I cannot, things are so, I'm on my soapbox now, Don, I'm sorry. But to me, I'm a very big liberty person. I believe people ought to be able to do what they want to do and have as much liberty as possible. Our government has, over the past few decades, has been doing things, and with the political correctness movement, you have it to where they're trying to scale back, what we can do and what we can say and things of that nature. And one of the things that it hits the most on, I think, is religious aspect, particularly with Christians. Now, I know, part of the Christian philosophy is, Jesus said, turn the other cheek. And I think Christians do that. They're like, okay, we're not supposed to make waves and things like that. And in doing so, the loudest spoke gets the oil. Mm-hmm. So, Christians aren't saying things, and they're not standing up and such. So, I mean, I'm agreeing with a lot of the things that our callers are saying, and there's a big change from Christianity from the time I was, a child until today. I mean, it is, and I think a lot of that is the government is slowly taken away. Our rights, which founding father was that our rights are only one generation away, they could be taken away. And I agree with that. It's like California. One of the things that's happened is California, passed that law regarding the immunization and took away the religious exemption. To me, that is huge. You're having a state with the amount of population that California has, and you're taking away religious exemptions on people being able to raise their children. That's very concerning. That the government encroaches. They don't take everything at one time. They move a little bit, then move a little bit more, what they call the slippery slope. So yes, the answer to the question is yes. I do see in the future where religion will be scaled back even more. People will be punished even more for the amount of for whatever their religion is, if they try to exercise their religion and it in any way impacts someone else.
Good morning. There's feedback. You're on the air with Attorney Corey Morgan.
Yeah, I just had a comment about the flags. First of all, if they do away with the Confederate flag now, then what's to stop the Muslims from saying we don't want the American flag in the air no more, or the Christian flag, because that's definitely against their religion? Is that going to be the next step? And then the other thing is on the gay homosexuality. If you want to be gay and everything, that's fine. You do it on your terms, but don't force it down my children's throat and everything in school when I don't believe in it. I think that's wrong. And the only answer they have for that is take your kid out of school if you don't want them to hear it. Well, maybe I won't mind to get an education and be able to get benefits to go to college and stuff, because I used to homeschool mine, and they couldn't get no benefits from college if you homeschool them. And I'll hang up and just listen.
All right. We got to take a commercial break, and we'll do that. And I've got another caller on the line. So, Corey, you can be assembling your thoughts and connection with these calls. We'll be right back.
Choosing a funeral home requires enormous trust. This is Joey Young. At Young Funeral Home, we've been earning the trust of Logan Countyans since 1959. Because we are a family-owned funeral home, we understand the importance of treating you like family. We invite you to call us at your time of need or come in and discuss the benefits of pre-planning a funeral with our staff. We create personalized services that honor your loved one. Young Funeral Home with chapels in Russellville and Auburn.
This is Jerry White from Raleigh White Drugs, and with me is Dr. Lindsay Flanders, our clinical pharmacist here at Raleigh White. I have a question for our listeners. Have you ever had chicken pox? Well, the same virus that causes chicken pox causes shingles, a painful, blistering rash.
At Raleigh White, we have Zostavax, not a treatment for shingles, but a vaccine you can get now to help reduce your risk of getting shingles in the future. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention recommends that appropriate adults 60 years of age or older should get the shingles vaccine, whether or not you remember having the chickenpox.
This is a one-time vaccination, and there's no maximum age for getting it. It does require a prescription, and we can give it here at our store. And even if you had shingles before, you can still get the vaccine to prevent future occurrence of it.
Ask anybody who's had the shingles. They'll tell you they wish they had had the shingles vaccine to prevent the misery they suffered.
come by to see us and ask about Zostavax, the shingles vaccine, at Raleigh White in downtown Russellville.
Well, good morning. This feedback here on the air with attorney Corey Morgan.
Corey.
Yes.
I'm confused about something.
Sure.
The gay marriage, does that apply to the government people marrying them, or what if they came to a minister and he refused to marry? Does that apply to him, or I'm confused on that?
As far as I understand, there's no requirement, at least in Kentucky. Okay, now some states have fairness ordinances and also state statutes that deal with you cannot discriminate against the basis of sexual orientation. We don't have that in Kentucky. There are four cities. I was reading the other day. I'm not even sure which cities there are. I know Louisville and Lexington are one of them that you cannot discriminate on basis of sexual orientation. Generally speaking, the rest of the states can. Well, I don't think in Kentucky that would apply to any sort of ministers. If they believe it's against their religion to marry somebody, they don't have to do that.
Okay.
And I think too, if you have, say, a county judge or circuit or district judge, I think it's okay for them to either marry everybody or marry no one. I don't think they can pick and choose heterosexuals versus homosexuals or same sex, however we want to call it. They cannot make that decision. It's either everybody or nobody, because they're a state agent. When you're a state agent, it's a little bit different. But at least what the law is right now, that may be subject to change, and that may what we're talking about before about the, some of the religious rights being under attack. That may change in the future. But as of right now, anybody who is a religious figure can choose whether to marry heterosexuals, homosexuals, or both.
Okay, good. Because I didn't understand that. Because I thought, well, if they came to our minister and he refused to marry them because he didn't believe in it, would he get into trouble?
As of right now, there's not a statute on that. I'm sure at some point there'll be a statute in every state that deals with that. And then you have to fight religiously if there's a religious exemption to that. So, yeah.
Even with CPR, there's a Good Samaritan law there. So, if something happened. So I think some kind of law needs to be established for our ministers if they refuse to marry them, that they shouldn't be subject to fines and whatnot,
Right.
Because, goodness, you can't take it all away from us.
I agree completely, and at some point, the people who are discriminated against religiously, the religious people will at some point have enough of it, but at this point, I just see it encroaching on religious liberty.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for calling. We have another caller. Do you want to devote yourself to any of these before we take this call? Anything you want to follow up on, Corey? You want to go ahead and take the call?
The gentleman who called about the flag mentioned that I have read stories where the flag is not used. The United States flag, American flag, is not used in certain circumstances because in other people. So he's on to something there. I'm sure. He said about that.
Okay. Okay. Well, good morning. There's feedback. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Attorney
good morning.
Good morning.
This is Laura Murphy again. Corey, I want to ask a question. I grew up, started school in, I guess it was 1952. Okay, I was raised missionary Southern Baptist. We couldn't go to a Catholic school because we didn't have the Christian schools. They did.
Right.
They made the good grades. I always wished I was a Catholic because they made better grades than I did. Because I could not put up with all. I'll have to be the first to admit, it bothered me going to school in 1952 when we had to get under our school desk because of the military scaring the crap out of us. We've had to rehearse how to get away from atomic bomb attacks. I remember the fallout shelters. That bothered me. I was scared to death as a little kid, you know? And, of course, there were tornadoes, which I have an opinion on that. I mean, it's under the gun weather, bomb weather, you know? So, anyway, I could have done a lot better without all that Air Force crap. And anyway, in my opinion, I think the guy's opinion about, you know, I definitely think that I always was a public school person. I appreciated my education, but now I think that we do need Christian education. I mean, after all, they do have military schools back then, and there were a lot of them, and that is, I don't think people need to be taught warfare. They need to be taught wrong. I mean, that's wrong. That's the devil's. Okay, that's all I got to say.
Okay.
I think we need more Christian.
Thanks, Bill.
Christian
schools.
I want to make one mention, though. Military schools are about discipline more than anything.
Well, I know.
I went to
what kind of discipline?
Yeah,
you did. I know you did, and so did Lowell. Lowell, one of my best friends, just recently died, young, because it says there, right there in the Ten Commandments, your life could be shortened. My father's life was shortened by the Navy, I believe, and it affected all of us. Okay, I'm just saying, who would ask you, what organizations would ask you to break the law of God and the Ten Commandments and the statutes of God? That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Laura.
Who would ask you to kill? Hi.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Somebody else has got time for, I guess, one more call. Good morning. You're on the air with Attorney Corey Morgan.
I wonder if I could quote Pastor Martin Niemöller.
All right.
During when Hitler was reigning.
Right.
Isn't it time we said, enough is enough? First, I came for socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews. Well, I didn't speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me.
A great quotation.
And he was murdered.
Pastor Niemöller, right? Absolutely.
Yes.
And
thank you.
And appreciate the thought. Yeah. Okay.
And I see that too from a legal standpoint. You know, they're erode, like say the Fourth Amendment. We talked about that in this time. The government consistently erodes it. You know, you don't have to have a warrant for this. You don't have to have a warrant for that. Nobody cares though. They're like, well, I'm not a criminal, so what does it matter? You know, it doesn't matter. You know, but when they erode other rights, people get all bent out of shape. They should have been bent out of shape when they're, years ago when they started eroding the Fourth Amendment. You know, it's not until, they start taking all kinds of rights away that people really get upset, things that are close to them. And I mean, that's a good point what the lady said, and I agree with that.
Okay. Well, we got about a couple of minutes. What else can you tell us this morning, Corey?
Since we got a couple of minutes, I'm going to talk about some of the rights. I'm going to try to do it in 2 minutes that you have when you're married. Okay. Marriage is really, really important, and that's why I wanted to talk about it on this show. You have the right, there's tax benefits. That's like filing a joint return or family partnership. There's estate planning benefits, inheriting an estate, having an exemption, life estate trust, government benefits like Social Security. If you're married for 10 years, you get Social Security off your spouse, disability benefits, veterans military benefits, public assistance benefits, benefits with employment like insurance. There'll be a lot of new people on the insurance rolls now. A lot of new people on the government benefits because of the marriage ruling. Medical benefits, death benefits. There's a lot of death benefits. Family benefits such as step-parent, joint adoption, foster care rights, division of property. I'm sure I'll start seeing a lot of divorces as well. There's housing benefits, that deal with family. Now families can be same-sex people, so that will also be on there. So another issue. There's suing for wrongful death. Wrongful death is an issue as well. Suing for third persons, like for alienation of affections or criminal conversation. We don't have that in Kentucky. Some states do. Marital communications privilege. There's a marital communications privilege in the laws of evidence. That would apply as well. There's consumer benefits like tuition, discounts, and permission to use facilities for schools, health, homeowners, auto insurance. That will be affected. Consumer discounts and incentives for married people. That will also be, I guess I'm about out of time, but that will also be on there. So there's a tremendous amount of benefit and changes just because people are married.
Right.
You know, and not to mention even during a divorce, you know, you get spousal benefits such as maintenance and things of that nature that you wouldn't have otherwise. So
and anyway, we'll be looking to, maybe we can see you in person next month, okay?
That'll be great, and thank you for everybody who called in.
All right, thanks a lot. Attorney Corey Morgan with us, ABC News, here at the top of the hour on WRUS, Russellville, Kentucky. It is 10 a.m.
From ABC News,